First contact. The Meridian's massive hull cast shadows across Houston's skyline as it descended through the morning haze. Admiral Sarah Chen watched from her underground command center as the alien vessel, nearly 2 miles long, settled into a hover above the designated landing zone. The ship's obsidian surface rippled like liquid metal, defying Earth's understanding of material science. All defense systems remained silent, her XO reported, maintaining our technological facade. Sarah nodded, her expression betraying none of the tension she felt. Humanity had prepared for this moment for over a century, but theory and reality were very different beasts. The aliens who called themselves the Meridian Collective had arrived 3 days ago, their fleet of 7 ships taking position around Earth's orbit with calculated precision. Their message had been simple: we come to elevate you. The translation matrices had worked perfectly, too perfectly. That had been the first red flag. The second had been the casual way they had disabled a Chinese satellite during their approach, demonstrating their technological superiority while claiming it was an unfortunate accident. Ground team in position, the comm officer announced. First contact protocols are ready. Sarah activated her neural link, connecting directly to the quantum observation network. Through distributed sensors smaller than atoms, she could observe the alien ship from every angle simultaneously. The official welcoming committee, led by the UN Secretary-General, waited on the surface, surrounded by what appeared to be a simple honor guard armed with ceremonial weapons. The reality, hidden beneath hundreds of feet of Earth and advanced quantum camouflage, was very different. A section of the Meridian's hull liquefied, forming an elegant ramp. The aliens emerged, their forms both beautiful and unsettling. Tall, crystalline beings that seemed to be made of living glass, internal lights pulsing in complex patterns. Their leader, who had identified itself as Primary Nexus 4, moved with liquid grace. Greetings, children of Earth, Vor's translated voice echoed across the landing zone. We have watched your development with great interest. Your potential is significant. Sarah's quantum sensors detected the subtle scanning beams emanating from the alien ship, probing Earth's apparent defenses. They found exactly what humanity wanted them to find: a civilization barely capable of lunar exploration, armed with primitive nuclear weapons and crude spaceflight capability. They didn't detect the quantum-entangled defense grid that could reduce their ships to atomic particles in microseconds. They didn't see the temporal phase generators that could locally alter the flow of time. They didn't find the black hole containment engines hidden in Earth's core. The Secretary-General stepped forward, playing his role perfectly. We are honored by your presence, Primary Nexus. Earth welcomes peaceful contact with advanced civilizations. Vor's crystalline form shimmered with what their cultural analysts had identified as amusement. Peace is, of course, our preference. But peace requires order, structure. The galaxy is a dangerous place for primitive species who lack proper guidance. Sarah's hands tightened on her command chair. The Meridian Collective was following the exact pattern their predictive AI had warned about, the template of a predator species that conquered through false benevolence. We offer you protection. Vor continued, integration into our great collective. Your resources and people will serve a greater purpose. Resistance would be unfortunate. The Secretary-General maintained his diplomatic smile. We would need time to consider such a significant offer. Our planetary governance requires consensus. Of course, Vor's lights pulsed in what their analysts recognize as condescension. You have 3 of your Earth days to accept our generous proposal. After that, we will be forced to ensure your cooperation through other means. As the aliens returned to their ship, Sarah opened a secure channel to the Global Defense Council. They followed the Predator profile exactly. Recommend initiating Protocol Omega. The Council's response was unanimous. Approved. Let them think they're the hunters until the very end. Sarah allowed herself a grim smile. Humanity had spent generations preparing for this moment, hiding their true capabilities behind a carefully constructed mask of technological primitiveness. The Meridian Collective thought they had found an easy target. In 3 days, they would learn why humans had spent so much time writing stories about alien invasions. They weren't fantasies. They were rehearsals. Hidden strengths. 3 days passed like a held breath. The Meridian ships maintained their orbital positions, their crystalline hulls refracting sunlight across Earth's cities. Primary Nexus Vor's deadline approached with the inevitability of a closing trap, though not the one the aliens imagined. In her lunar command center, Admiral Chen reviewed the final preparations. The facility, officially listed as a scientific research station, stretched for miles beneath the moon's surface. Banks of quantum computers processed real-time data from sensors scattered throughout the solar system, tracking every microscopic movement of the Meridian fleet. "They're still scanning us," her tactical officer reported. "Standard EM spectrum, gravitational waves, 0-point field fluctuations. They're finding exactly what we want them to find." Sarah nodded, watching the holographic display showing Earth's true defensive capabilities. The planet's crust was honeycombed with advanced weapon systems, each calibrated to operate on principles the Meridians had never encountered. Humanity had developed along a completely different technological path than the Collective, prioritizing stealth and unconventional physics over brute force. Message from Primary Nexus 4. Communications announced. "They're demanding our answer." Sarah opened the channel, allowing the alien leader's image to form in the command center. Vor's crystalline form pulsed with impatient light patterns. "Your time has expired. Humans, what is your response?" The Secretary General appeared on a split screen, maintaining his role as Earth's apparent leader. "Primary Nexus, we require more time to reach consensus. Many of our nations are still debating the terms of your offer." "Debate is irrelevant." Vor's translated voice carried tones of irritation. "Your primitive social structures do not concern us. You will submit to collective authority or face immediate pacification." Sarah sent a subtle signal through her neural link. Across Earth and throughout the solar system, hidden systems powered up, remaining just below the threshold of detection. The Meridians' arrogance had led them to assume that any civilization without their form of FTL travel must be technologically inferior in all aspects. They were about to learn otherwise. "I'm afraid we must decline your offer," the Secretary General stated firmly. "Earth belongs to humanity. We will not surrender our sovereignty." Vor's crystalline form flashed with patterns that their cultural analysts identified as a mixture of amusement and contempt. "Then you choose extinction. How unfortunate, though not unexpected from such a primitive species." The Meridian ships began moving into attack formation. Their weapons, capable of reducing cities to ash, powered up with visible energy signatures. They expected to face a civilization armed with nuclear weapons and chemical rockets. "All defense grid sectors report ready," Sarah's tactical officer whispered. "Quantum entanglement fields are stable. Temporal phase generators at full capacity." Sarah opened a channel to all Earth defense stations. "Remember your training. Let them commit fully to their attack before we show them what humanity is truly capable of." The first Meridian ship fired, launching what appeared to be a plasma weapon at New York City. The beam never reached its target. Instead, it encountered a temporal phase field that caused the energy to age millions of years in microseconds, dissipating harmlessly. Vor's voice crackled across all frequencies. "What? Impossible. Your civilization doesn't possess such technology." "Actually," Sarah responded, finally revealing herself as Earth's true military commander, "there's quite a lot you don't know about us. Allow me to demonstrate." She gave the signal. Across the solar system, humanity's hidden defenses revealed themselves. Quantum-entangled weapon platforms emerged from dimensional pockets. Artificial micro-black holes spun up in carefully contained fields. Temporal distortion generators began selectively altering the flow of time around Meridian ships. By the Collective, Vor's voice carried genuine fear now. "What are you?" "We're human," Sarah replied simply, "and we've spent centuries preparing for this moment. You see, we've always known we weren't alone in the universe, but rather than announce ourselves, we watched. We learned. We developed technologies that your sensors couldn't detect because they operate on principles your civilization never explored." The Meridian fleet attempted to regroup, their weapons firing desperately at targets that existed in multiple temporal states simultaneously. Their shields, designed to stop conventional energy and kinetic attacks, proved useless against weapons that operated through quantum entanglement and temporal manipulation. "Your species," Vor's voice had lost its condescending tone. "You appeared so primitive. Your visible technology was a carefully crafted deception." Sarah finished. "We showed you what you expected to see. Your own prejudices did the rest." 3 Meridian ships attempted to jump to FTL, only to find themselves trapped in localized time dilation fields. 2 more fired their main weapons, only to have the energy redirected through quantum tunneling effects back into their own shields. "Last chance, primary nexus," Sarah offered. "Withdraw your forces and never return. Otherwise, we'll be forced to demonstrate our more aggressive capabilities." Vor's response was immediate. You're not what we thought you were. The collective has clearly made a grave error in judgment. We will withdraw." As the Meridian ships retreated, their once proud formation now scattered and disorganized, Sarah turned to her command staff. "Send word to all defense stations. Phase 1 complete. Begin preparations for Phase 2. Phase 2, Admiral." Sarah's expression hardened. "The Meridians will report back to their collective. They'll return with a larger fleet, better prepared for our current capabilities. That's exactly what we want. Because we haven't shown them everything," her XO realized. "Not even close," Sarah confirmed. "What they saw today was our defensive technology. They haven't seen what we can do when we actually start fighting back." As the last Meridian ship disappeared from the solar system, humanity began preparing for the real war. They had spent generations planning for this moment, developing technologies that operated outside the conventional understanding of physics. The collective thought they had found an easy target. Instead, they had awakened a sleeping giant that had been preparing for this exact moment for centuries. The next phase of human history was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. The counterstrike. The Meridian Collective's High Council chamber erupted in chaos as Primary Nexus 4 presented the battle recordings. The crystalline being's internal lights pulsed with patterns of disbelief and fear as they watched their primitive targets neutralize their most advanced weapons with apparent ease. Impossible. First Counselor Zax's form vibrated with agitation. No civilization at their development stage could possess such technology. "Your sensors must have malfunctioned." "Our sensors worked perfectly," Vor responded, light patterns showing frustration. "The humans, they developed along a completely different technological path. While we mastered energy manipulation and faster-than-light travel, they explored quantum mechanics, temporal engineering, and stealth technology we can barely detect, let alone understand." In Earth orbit, Admiral Chen watched through quantum-entangled sensors as the collective marshaled its forces. The aliens had gathered a fleet 10 times larger than their first attack force, incorporating weapons specifically designed to counter the defenses humanity had revealed. "They're adapting quickly," her tactical officer noted. "New shield configurations, temporal stabilization fields, quantum disruption arrays." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Exactly as predicted. They're preparing to fight the last war, not the next one. Begin Operation Phantom Strike. Across the solar system, humanity's true offensive capabilities activated for the first time. Quantum-cloaked ships, invisible to conventional spacetime, slipped through the fabric of reality. Each vessel carried weapons that the Meridians couldn't have imagined. Technology that didn't just bend the laws of physics, but rewrote them locally. "Strike teams report ready," operations announced. "Phase shift drives at maximum efficiency." "Launch the attack," Sarah ordered. Let's show them why humans have always been fascinated with stories of asymmetric warfare. In Meridian space, the first signs of humanity's counteroffensive appeared without warning. Colonial outposts went dark. Supply lines disappeared. Communication relays failed mysteriously. The collective's mighty defense fleet found itself fighting an enemy they couldn't see or predict. Another station lost in the Proxima sector. A Meridian commander reported, their crystalline form flickering with distress. No signs of weapons fire, no energy signatures. They just ceased to exist. Human strike teams, using phase shift technology, could temporarily remove targets from normal spacetime, effectively erasing them from existence without destruction. The Meridian's advanced sensors, designed to detect energy weapons and conventional stealth, were useless against an enemy that could selectively edit reality. We're not just fighting a technologically advanced species, Vor realized, addressing the High Council. We're fighting an entirely different paradigm of warfare. Sarah watched the chaos spread through the collective's territory. Humanity's ships struck from dimensional pockets, using weapons that ignored traditional defenses. Quantum-entangled torpedoes appeared simultaneously at multiple targets. Temporal weapons aged enemy installations into dust or reverted them to their component elements. They're falling back to their core systems, intelligence reported, abandoning their outer colonies. As expected, Sarah nodded. They're trying to concentrate their forces where they feel safe. That's exactly what we want them to do. The Meridian High Council received reports of increasing losses with growing horror. Their mighty civilization, which had dominated its sector of space for millennia, found itself unable to counter attacks that seemed to defy the very laws of nature. How do we fight an enemy we cannot see? First Counselor Zax demanded. One that turns our own understanding of physics against us. We don't. Vor replied, their light patterns showing resignation. We underestimated them. Catastrophically. They weren't just hiding their technology. They were hiding their entire approach to science and warfare. Human strike teams pressed their advantage, systematically dismantling the collective's military infrastructure. Each attack demonstrated new capabilities, preventing the Meridians from developing effective countermeasures. The psychological impact was as devastating as the physical damage. Send the message, Sarah commanded as another Meridian defense fleet scattered before phantom attackers. Let them know that this is just the beginning. That everything they've seen so far has been us being gentle. The transmission reached every Meridian world simultaneously, bypassing their communication networks through quantum entanglement. You thought you found a primitive species ripe for conquest. Instead, you discovered that humanity had spent generations preparing for this moment. We didn't just develop weapons, we developed ways of thinking about space, time, and warfare that your civilization never imagined. This is your final warning. Withdraw completely from human space, or face the full extent of our capabilities. In the High Council chamber, the Meridian leadership faced an unprecedented crisis. Their military doctrine, based on overwhelming force and superior technology, proved meaningless against an enemy that fought by different rules entirely. They're not just defeating us, Vor observed, watching another battle group vanish into a temporal anomaly. They're revolutionizing warfare itself. Every assumption we've made about space combat, about physics, about the nature of reality, they've proved them all wrong. Sarah reviewed the battle data with her command staff. The Meridians are predictable, she explained. They think in terms of direct confrontation, of measurable power. They never considered that a species might develop technology specifically designed to be immeasurable, unpredictable, and impossible to counter conventionally. What's our next move, Admiral? Sarah's expression hardened. Now we show them why humanity has always been fascinated with stories of revolution. The collective's subject species are watching closely, seeing their oppressors humbled. Phase 4 begins tomorrow. We help those species break free. The war was about to enter a new phase, one that would reshape the political landscape of the galaxy. Humanity hadn't just prepared to fight. They had prepared to change everything. Breaking point. The Meridian Collective's once mighty empire began to fracture. News of their defeats spread through quantum-encrypted channels that the Collective couldn't detect or block. Subject species that had suffered under crystalline rule for generations watched in amazement as their oppressors retreated from human attacks they couldn't even see. On the algae forest world of Senfor, the silicon-based Vex witnessed Meridian warships vanish into temporal voids. In the gas mines of Jupiter-class planet Helios Prime, the energy beings called the luminous observed human phase ships ignore the laws of physics. Each demonstration further eroded the Meridian's image of invincibility. Admiral Chen stood before the holographic display in Luna Command, watching the ripple effects of humanity's campaign spread across the galaxy. Status report on Operation Liberation. 17 subject species have already declared independence, her intelligence officer reported. The Vex have seized 3 former Meridian worlds. The Luminous have reclaimed their ancestral gas giants. The Collective's empire is collapsing faster than our most optimistic projections. Sarah nodded, her expression grim but satisfied. And the Meridian response? Exactly as predicted. They're withdrawing to their core systems, abandoning outer territories to concentrate their forces. Their entire military doctrine is breaking down. In the Meridian High Council chamber, the crisis had reached a breaking point. First Counselor Zax's crystalline form pulsed with patterns of rage and fear as they reviewed the latest disasters. Another fleet lost in the Carina sector. A military commander reported, their light patterns dim with despair. The humans, they didn't destroy our ships. They temporarily displaced them. Our finest warships now exist 2 million years in the future. The Vex rebellion spreads, another counselor added. They've adapted human phase technology to their silicon biology. Our forces can't engage an enemy that exists in multiple quantum states simultaneously. Vor, stripped of their primary nexus status after the initial defeat, spoke up. We're not just losing territory. We're losing our understanding of how the universe works. The humans aren't merely defeating us. They're proving that our entire civilization's approach to physics and warfare is fundamentally flawed. Sarah reviewed the next phase of humanity's campaign with her strategic command. The holographic display showed the Meridian core worlds, their defenses now concentrated and formidable, against conventional attacks. They still don't understand, she explained to her officers. They think technology is about power, about forcing the universe to obey. Humanity took a different path. We learned to work with reality's underlying principles, to bend rather than break. The Meridian fleet is consolidating around their homeworld, Tactical reported. They've developed temporal stabilization fields, quantum disruption barriers, phase detection grids, all designed to counter our previous attacks. Sarah smiled. Begin Operation Paradigm Shift. Across Meridian space, human vessels activated technology that the Collective hadn't yet seen. Ships didn't just phase through space-time. They rewrote local causality itself. Weapons didn't just ignore shields. They retroactively prevented shields from ever being installed. Impossible. Zax screamed as reports flooded in. They're changing past events. This violates every law of temporal mechanics. No, Vor corrected, their light patterns showing grim understanding. It only violates our understanding of those laws. The humans, they don't just use technology. They understand reality at a level we never imagined. The Meridian Defense Fleet, the largest concentration of military power in their history, prepared for humanity's assault. Their sensors scanned every spectrum, their weapons primed to counter any known form of attack. They weren't prepared for humanity to change the rules again. Operation Paradigm Shift is go, Sarah announced. Show them why humans have always written stories about transcending limitations. The attack began without warning, because from the timeline's new perspective, it had always been happening. Human ships didn't appear. They had technically always been there, their quantum states synchronized with multiple possible realities simultaneously. Report. Zax demanded as chaos erupted across their defense grid. What are they doing? We "We don't know," a science officer admitted, their crystalline form flickering with confusion. "They're not just changing space or time. They're changing how change itself works." Sarah watched as humanity's most advanced technology deployed for the first time. Ships equipped with probability drives didn't just move through space. They navigated through possible realities. Weapons powered by uncertainty principle manipulation didn't just strike targets. They altered the fundamental likelihood of the target's existence. The Meridians built their civilization on the assumption that reality follows fixed laws, she explained to her command staff. Humanity discovered that the laws themselves are subject to change if you understand them deeply enough. The collective's mighty defense fleet found itself fighting an enemy that couldn't just appear anywhere. They existed everywhere and nowhere, their very presence a mathematical expression of quantum probability. "We have to surrender," Vore announced to the High Council. "The humans aren't just defeating our ships. They're defeating our understanding of existence itself." But before the collective could transmit their surrender, humanity's final phase began. The war was about to reach its culmination, and the galaxy would never be the same. Final reckoning. The Meridian homeworld hung in space like a crystalline jewel, its surface reflecting starlight in complex patterns that mirrored the thought processes of its inhabitants. Around it, the combined might of their remaining fleet formed a defensive shell that represented tens of thousands of years of technological development. They had gathered every ship, every weapon, every scrap of knowledge they possessed. It wasn't nearly enough. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the ESS Humanity, Earth's first true reality manipulation vessel. The ship existed in a quantum state that the Meridian sensors couldn't even detect, not because it was hidden, but because it operated on principles their civilization had never imagined possible. "All ships report ready," her XO announced. "Reality anchors stable. Probability matrices synchronized." Sarah nodded, her neural interface showing her the position of every human vessel in their final formation. They weren't just ships anymore. They were expressions of humanity's understanding of the universe's deepest principles. "Send the final warning," she ordered. The message transmitted directly into the consciousness of every Meridian being, bypassing their communication systems through quantum entanglement that had always existed, retroactively inserted into the fabric of space-time. "This is your final opportunity for unconditional surrender. What follows will not be combat as you understand it. It will be a demonstration of why humanity spent centuries contemplating the nature of reality itself." In the High Council chamber, First Counselor Zax's crystalline form pulsed with desperate determination. "We cannot surrender. We are the Meridian Collective. We have ruled the stars for millennia." Vore, now understanding far too late, spoke up. "You still don't comprehend. The humans, they're not trying to rule. They're trying to teach." "Begin the demonstration," Sarah commanded. The human fleet didn't attack in any conventional sense. Instead, they began to manipulate the fundamental forces that held reality together. Ships equipped with probability drives didn't just move through space. They rewrote the mathematical likelihood of events. Quantum state manipulators didn't just change the present. They altered the statistical distribution of possible pasts and futures. What are they doing?" a Meridian commander asked, their voice carrying both awe and terror. The space around the Meridian homeworld began to shift, not through force or energy, but through the careful manipulation of quantum probability fields. Human ships didn't fire weapons. They changed the mathematical likelihood that weapons would be necessary at all. "Reality itself is a consensus," Sarah explained to her crew as they watched the laws of physics locally rewrite themselves. "The universe operates the way it does because that's the most probable state. We didn't develop weapons to overpower that consensus. We learned how to suggest alternatives." The Meridian fleet found their weapons wouldn't fire, not because they were damaged, but because the probability of them functioning had been mathematically reduced to near zero. Their shields didn't fail. They retroactively had never been activated. Their mighty ships didn't break apart. They gently transformed into configurations that never included weapons in the first place. "This is impossible," Zax screamed, watching their civilization's military might transform without a single shot being fired. "You can't change what things are." "Actually," Vor replied, finally understanding, "they're showing us that everything is always changing. We just never learn to guide that change." The demonstration continued. Human ships didn't disable Meridian technology. They altered its purpose. Weapons became scientific instruments. Warships transformed into exploration vessels. The very crystal matrix of the Meridian beings began to resonate with new possibilities. "You see," Sarah's message echoed through the transformed fleet, "humanity never wanted to destroy you. We wanted to show you that the universe is far more wonderful and strange than you imagined. Your civilization mastered energy and matter. We learned to master possibility itself." The Meridian Collective, faced with a demonstration of power that transcended their understanding of power, finally surrendered. Not to superior force, but to a superior understanding of reality's fundamental nature. In the aftermath, as the galaxy reshaped itself around the implications of humanity's capabilities, Sarah stood before the United Earth Council to deliver her final report. "The Meridians have begun to learn," she explained. "Their civilization is transforming, not through force, but through understanding. The other species we liberated are developing their own unique paths of technological and philosophical development. The galaxy is entering a new age. And humanity's role in this new age?" a counselor asked. Sarah smiled. "We'll do what we've always done. We'll explore. We'll learn. We'll imagine new possibilities. And most importantly, we'll share what we discover. Because the greatest power isn't in destroying or controlling. It's in showing others how to see the universe in new ways." The war that began with an attempted conquest ended not with destruction, but with transformation. The Meridian Collective learned that true power lay not in forcing reality to obey, but in understanding its infinite possibilities. Humanity had achieved victory not through superior firepower, but through superior imagination. And in the vast darkness between the stars, countless civilizations looked toward Earth with new understanding. Humanity hadn't just changed the outcome of a war, they had changed how the entire galaxy thought about what was possible. The story wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. But one thing was certain: the universe would never be the same.